My name is Yasuhiko Genku Kimura. I'm a chairman and founder of Vision in Action and creative director and president of Vision in Action Leadership Institute.
Yasuhiko, thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview with me. It's a delight to have this conversation with you.
My pleasure. Thank you for your invitation.
The first question I'd like to ask is, these words, working for good, what do they evoke for you?
You know, goodness to me is same as wholeness, integrity, balance. And working for good means working from wholeness, integrity, and balance, and for greater wholeness, integrity, and balance. So I don't associate moral meanings to goodness. It's more ontological, philosophical meaning. So goodness is wholeness.
One of the themes that's come up in some of my other conversations is the question of relative reality and ultimate reality, and the significance of these as to what we do, and the significance of working for good in the context of a relative or ultimate reality. How does this speak to you?
Well, the distinction between absolute and relative has been, in existence in Eastern philosophy, Hinduism, Buddhism. They all talk about something like that. Hinduism is more into that distinction. Buddhism is not really into absolutism too much. But to me, absolute, true absolute is not opposite to relative, yes? If it is opposite to relative, then it is relative to relative, which is not absolute. So there is really nothing we can say about absolute. But I begin to really see beyond Godhead, there is God heart. Beyond cosmos, there is exquisite chaos, and that is God heart. And if we were to talk about absolute wholeness, it is the wholeness of God heart, about which we can say nothing. But we can have the experience of it, and all of our spiritual aspirations lead us to that God heart, the heart of the one, beyond God mind, God intelligence, God head. So that is absolute to me. Everything else is relative in the sense that it is always relational. I'm not talking about relativism, but there's a place we can see that everything is relational, interconnected, interpenetrating, and interdependent. And that is the dimension of relative. So wholeness has that element of relativity in the sense that it can become greater and greater whole. And the integrity can be a greater and greater integrity by including more and more of relational reality into our consciousness. So in that sense, the wholeness evolves, and actually only wholeness evolves. When you go into psychotherapy, psychology, people want to achieve wholeness. Once people achieve some element of wholeness, some degree of wholeness, they say they are healed. Then once they are healed, they will have an opportunity to evolve into a greater wholeness. So evolution is wholeness unfolding into greater wholeness. So in that sense, there's an element of relativity to wholeness. And that is where we live. That is where the dynamic reality of life exists.
So the Tao says, and I'll paraphrase, so you want to improve the world. It is already perfect as it is. What does this mean to you? Lao Tzu, Taoist tradition is a very spiritual tradition. When you achieve enlightenment, what happens is that what I call the ontological inversion takes place. So I say spirituality and sensibility, or substantiality and sensibility, or reality and sensibilities
inversely proportional, which means when our consciousness is dim and our attention is on the external world, we see this body and everything that exists as substantial, and something like a spirit or consciousness to be insubstantial. But when we begin to awaken into the state of enlightenment, inversion takes place. So what was substantial before begin to become more and more insubstantial, and then what appeared to be insubstantial become more and more substantial. So reality and appearance, we see appearance, phenomena, as reality and substantial. But in the state of enlightenment, from which Lao Tzu and Taoist masters are talking, what is substantial, what is real, is this spirit, this consciousness. And the world of appearance is very insubstantial, and Buddhists call that sunya, devoid of substance. So the perfection, what he is talking about, is that perfection of that reality, which is akin to what you talked about in terms of absolute. Buddhists and Taoists, they don't talk in terms of absoluteness, but it is that perfection, and it is ongoingly perfect, and there's nothing to be changed. But the world in which people live, the world people identify with, have all kinds of turmoils and imperfections. So that's what he's talking about.
What is the role and the opportunity of work in manifesting wholeness?
The work to me is a expression of your passion. You see, I call each person, each individual, a singular cosmic destiny. So from this absolute, from this the heart of God, from this Tao, from this perfection arises unique individuated souls, which we are, and that unique individuation has a flavor which is experienced as your unique passion or vision. So work to me is an expression and manifestation and accomplishment of that passion, which is who you are. So there is no fundamental difference between play and work. I say work is a play with deadlines. Otherwise, it is a playful expression of who one is in terms of the vision and the passion. So the more one expresses and fulfills one's passion and vision, the greater one's work will be. And as a result of those expression, the person evolves more. So the purpose of human life is an evolution of one's soul through the expression, manifestation, and fulfillment of one's cosmic destiny, which is experienced as one's passion. So in my own small way, through my seminars and lectures and writing, I am trying to bring people back to their own destiny.
So in the context of working for good or elegant business or conscious business, what does success mean?
There's a visible story and the invisible story. And the invisible story is the evolution of one's soul. And that is the true purpose of life. And sometimes people ask the question, what is success? And the success in this sense is the more you have learned, the more you have evolved, the more successful you are in this life. And so somebody may become very famous and rich, but may not have evolved in terms of soul. On the other hand, somebody else may have been living a very quiet, normal life. and nobody may know about him or her, but because of his or her spiritual evolution, his life is more successful than those who don't evolve. That is the invisible side of our life. And visible side of it is, depending on your passion, vision, and your cosmic destiny, you express it in such a way, it may draw more people's attention. So that's the visible side of it. And then there is a visible side of success in the sense of you express it more and more. You manifest your destiny more and more. You are more successful in that sense. Yes.
What is the role of practices in cultivating a wholeness in business, in manifesting working for good? And what are the practices that you employ or that you teach or promote to cultivate wholeness in business?
You see, entrepreneurs are, to me, fundamentally an artist, a creator. And as painters paint and the composers compose, entrepreneurs create businesses. Through the creation of businesses, they create an organization and flow of products, and they also provide an opportunity for other people to fulfill their lives' destiny. So it is a very orchestrated, creative art. That is what it means to be in business. So the more one is in touch with one's own, depth, the more one knows what one wants to create in the form of business, in the form of organization, and in the form of products. And then, as I said, the wholeness unfold into a greater wholeness. So when you begin to express your destiny in this way as an entrepreneur, when you express your creativity as a business person, and something starts to manifest. When this manifestation takes place, then the new space for the greater manifestation becomes possible. So as business grows, you also grow. So it is a co-evolutionary process. And in the process of creating this creative process, many people become involved in this. And they begin to become a integral part of this orchestra, of which the entrepreneur is the CEO, is the conductor. And not everybody is into conductor. Some people prefer playing violin. Yes. So to me, a business is maybe the most creative act. It is just not only individual. It creates a space for others to express their creativity. So that is, to me, the essence of entrepreneurship and business. So number of practices that the people can develop from this. And today, 20, 30 years ago, I began consulting business people maybe 20 some years ago. Speaking of something like a spirituality or soul is completely out of the question. Nobody talked about that. And today, in the process of our dialogue, when I mention something like spirituality, your soul, they respond. So something is happening today. And one of the critical practice, I think we cannot get away from meditation. Whether you're a spiritual seeker, whether you're an entrepreneur, meditation is the art of creating a space within so that you become conscious of yourself more and more. So some form of meditation, whether it's just a sitting meditation, or you go into Sufi dance, or you can just play golf, whatever it is that you do, there's a activity, different kind of activities, but meditativeness needs to be an essential component. And when I talk about meditation, meditation is the other side of creativity. I think we spoke about this in the past. Japanese word for for to think. Kamikairu means you return to the source of your being and return back to this world. So meditation is a returning journey into the source of your being. And creativity is a returning again back to this world with this new inspiration. So this motion of meditation, creation is essential. And without talking about this meditation, you can't really talk about this creation. And so business people are concerned with this creation part of it. And it is essential that they begin to incorporate in their own thinking and in their own life and practice this meditative aspect of this. So that's number one. And number two, it is extremely important to create a space in which each employee can fulfill his or her own destiny through their work. Like a conductor or composer providing opportunity for violinists to play violin and cellists to play cello. So the culture, the culture of creativity that a CEO create is extremely important. And to create this culture of creativity, each company is different. But CEO need to really pay attention to that space of creativity, which means you do not suppress people's ideas. And I have a notion called the alignment beyond agreement. And alignment is a congruence of intention, whereas agreement is a congruence of opinion and ideas. So when people comes, and if you are living on the realm of agreement, disagreement, when there's a disagreement, there's a conflict, and then it doesn't go anywhere. It becomes politics. The person who has a power to suppress the other faction wins. But intention is beyond ideas and opinions. So if we can align the company with an intention to create something ongoingly, so everybody become aligned, and then people's ideas and opinions become an asset. So then there will be no suppression of ideas, because they are all asset, and they are all the new vortexes which comprise the larger vortex that is the company's destiny. So this practice of alignment beyond agreement helps to create the culture of creativity. And secondly, the culture of responsibility. And responsibility means the ability to respond, and respond means to promise anew. Spawn is to promise, and is anew. And so to promise is to create, bring forth a future, a new future, as a commitment. So when you make a promise, something is going to happen, which wouldn't have happened without you making a promise. So responsibility is a very self-generative act. So when each employee becomes responsible in the sense of I'm defining, each person becomes generative in addition to creative, meditative. And then what happens is the overall power of creativity and generativity increase dramatically, which benefits the company and each individual.
In the context of cultivating wholeness, then there's wholeness for the entrepreneur, the individual starting an enterprise, and there's wholeness for the people working with them. There's wholeness for the enterprise. So is there a increasing, call it, circle or sphere of wholeness that evolves as an entrepreneur and an enterprise evolves?
Yes. Up to this moment, when successful companies, so long as they are succeeding and competing, against others, and if they are winning against others, they consider themselves to be winning and successful. But you see, if the industry collapses, then companies collapse. So the step toward sustainability and step toward the new evolution of an enterprise is to expand the consciousness into the whole industry. So not only the success of the company, that is important, but also it is important to pay attention to the success of the whole industry. So that is one extra step. But then the industry exists within the whole business community, and the business community needs to thrive in order for a particular industry to be successful. And then the business community exists within the whole community of humanity, and the whole community of humanity exists in the whole planet, and so on and so forth. So it becomes like one cannot win without others winning also. So there is an element of competition going on in the sense of you want to always improve upon product and the services. At the same time, you cooperate in terms of creating a greater and greater success for the industry and greater and greater success for humanity. Right now, like 2.7 or 3 billion people are too poor to even, to drink, clean water. And imagine if the whole planet become wealthy, then you have a much larger market. Simple logic dictate. So it is in the interest of business people to have more and more wealth permeating throughout the planet, so that they can purchase the product they're making. You see, fundamentally, the greatest resource that we have is human mind. And if people are given a sufficient amount of physical and mental and emotional nutrition, each person can become a producer in the sense that he will produce more than he consumes. I mean, talking about ideal state, obviously. It takes a long time ever we can get there. So people's ingenuity and creativity is just mind-boggling. So we are concerned about some problem based on the existing paradigm of thinking. So people come from scarcity, and then based on the existing way metrics, they think that if the whole 6.5 billion people become active, there may not be enough. I do not buy into that logic, because 100 years ago, many experts said many things are impossible, which we all have made it possible, including something like going to the moon. Long time ago already. It was 1969. So so long as we give nutrition and support and encouragement and empowerment to human mind, human intelligence, human ingenuity, we will never have a scarcity. And that is fundamental, a premise upon which I operate. That's number one. Number two, the reason why the communism or the central control does not work, there are a number of reasons. It actually stifles that greatest resource that we have, which is people's creativity. So I believe in this benign universe. Not only believe, I know this universe is benign. And human beings, if they are sufficiently free from their worry for survival, except for a few, aberrations, people move into a benign direction. And therefore, this whole omnicentric free market system will work when people are given the sufficient amount of knowledge, nutrition, and freedom, and along with freedom, responsibility. We can turn this whole planet into something that's beyond our imagination at the moment. And we think natural resource in terms of oil and coal. No, human mind is the greatest, by far the greatest natural resource. We have been completely underutilizing this natural resource, really.
So sometimes we can come with great intention and even employ a high level of consciousness and self-awareness and conscious practice, yet things don't work out the way we intend them to, and there are challenges. What are the implications of these challenges, and how do we work with them?
Number one, so I have done many seminars, conducted many seminars, and one of those seminars, we go deep into, people's fundamental intentions, and I have never seen any misalignment. When we get to the depths of our soul, our intentions, our passions, and our visions are aligned. And the reason why there are diverse intentions existing today, not everybody is conscious to that degree. So there are egos, intentions, and people think they have only one ego. That's not true. There are many egos within one human being, and they have counter intentions. Some personality says, he or she want to be good, and the other one say want to indulge in something. So there are people as they exist today, or up to this point. Most people do not have like a unified intention. So the conflict of interest exists within each person. So if you multiply that with all the 6.5 billion human beings, there's a tremendous amount of conflict of interest going on, and conflict of intentions going on. So that is the reality in which we live. Now, each person who has made a commitment to be conscious, deeply conscious, and to fulfill the deepest passion and vision of his or her own soul, need to develop this practice in life, that always remember why he or she is doing whatever it is that he or she is doing. So the remembering is every day as a practice, along with this meditative practice, one needs to remember and go back to the original intention every day. And then also encourage others to do the same. That's very important. And when people, really become, tuned into themselves, it does not take great enlightenment to realize one's true intention. So that's number one. And number two, even then there's ongoing challenges. Problems arise because of your commitment. You see, if we had no commitment to come here this morning to do this interview, traffic in New York City wasn't a problem for us, but it was a problem because of that reason. So when you have an intention and you make a commitment, the moment you make a commitment, everything that exists in front of you show up as obstacles and then problems. So there are challenges to remind yourself why you are doing what you're doing. So to me, all those obstacles and challenges to a degree welcome, and it gives me an opportunity to think anew and find a way to overcome. And every time we overcome those problems, we learn some lessons. And sometimes we make mistakes, a lot of mistakes, and we learn some lessons. So in this way, this life is an evolutionary process, and every lesson we learn is a evolutionary thrust. So that's how I would take those challenges. And in the world of relativity, there will be no perfection. That is the fact. So given that, we can strive to achieve our intentions to the best of our ability and take every challenge as an evolutionary lesson and teach others the same. Then you don't get upset about it. In my own organization, Vision in Action, I found that all the problems that exist on this planet are interconnected. So you cannot just deal with one problem without paying attention to other problems. Now, of course, one person or one organization can never address all the problems that are existing. So it is very, very important that the companies and organizations to form an alliance and be informed of other people's work. Number one. And number two, within one organization, still there need to be, like my non-profit organization or your flow organization, you have a number of projects. You're addressing some issues, they're related, at the same time, independent. So in my organization, Vision in Action, so it is a very philosophical organization. We are in the business of actually propagating ideas, because ideas change the world. But in this idea way, there are a number of other things that we can do. So one dimension is the seminar, and then seminars where I teach people how to evolve spiritually, intellectually, and then we are planning on creating conferences like you do, where we bring people together and let people experience the ideas that we are propagating. But also, it is important to deal with something that really tangible. So on the one hand, I'm involved with scientific research. And on the other hand, we are involved with energy technology. And just came back from Ohio from the meeting with my colleagues. And my engineering colleagues have developed this technology that convert gravity to electricity. Completely free energy. And it is a very simple principle, and by the use of this, we can actually eliminate the use of oil completely. It will take a long, long time. So, and then through this technology, we can actually help, underdeveloped countries to provide water and food in a very inexpensive way. Using this energy technology, we can also transform air into water, drinking water. And then through the structure, they will have more and more wealth, they will have more food. So I'm working on the highest level of ideas, and at the same time somehow helping others to really nurture themselves and become self-sufficient human beings. So those are important things. The more range we have, the more powerful our work becomes. And that's one of the things I want to share. Yes.